This is Matej Jan. He is from Retronator, pixel art wizard, I would call him. And he also is the developer of Pixel Art Academy. He is here to tell you how to learn hard skills, drawing and coding. That is the title of this. Take it away, Matej.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, let's get started. My name is Matej, and just as a really quick, so you know, I'm making this art school, which is a little bit an unconventional art school because it is not a real school, but it's called Retropolis Academy of Art, and it lives 100% inside of a video game called Pixel Art Academy. So that's what I'm working on right now, and in this talk, there's just some background where you might know me from, and in this talk, I wanted to show you how to learn hard skills. And here, hard skills, I mean it both in things like if you're applying to a job, like hard skills, things that you can, learn very well and measure, but also hard skills in things that are pretty hard in just difficulty. And to do that, you actually need to know a little bit about you need to do self-regulated learning, which is a term I only learned this year, and you will hear about that really soon, because I'm also give you a little bit of a background, who I am and how I got here to this point, just to give you some context. So yeah, my name is Matej Jan, and this is how I would look on weekends when I was young. Our parents, so that would be the Sinclair ZX Spectrum computer. It's a British thing that we had. I grew up in Europe, and my parents were super strict about how much computer time we would get. We would have like 2 hours me and my brother would just love playing video games, and anytime we couldn't play them, we would be thinking about how to make them. And we both ended up being game developers. My brother works at Blizzard on World of Warcraft, and yeah, I'm making indie games. So this is like a parenting pro tip: if you ever want your kids to become something, just limit their time to the minimum possible. Gives you guaranteed results. This is how this would look like in practice, and this is how it would look like when you were waiting 5 minutes for your game to load off of cassette tape. And this is how it looked when you got inside. But it was still pretty cool. Like, this is text adventures. It was still pretty cool. We would just love all of this. We were super inspired by it. And we would find any possible way we could to learn how do you do this yourself. Like, in fact, kids magazine, like elementary school children magazine in Slovenia, the country I'm from, would actually teach you coding. Like, this is the end of the 80s, start of the 90s. Like, we couldn't, as you can see, we couldn't even read lowercase letters yet, but we would type this into our computer just so we could see that sheep appear or stuff like that. And later on, so this was our first kind of source magazines and stuff like that. And then when internet came about, like late 90s for us, I would find this webpage called Gamasutra, and immediately this was like, wow, oh my God, there was all these articles about how to do game developers, and I would download them, print them out, have little binders of coding and game design. So it was amazing. And the thing is, like, nobody made us do this. We were just doing it because of our interest. And this is what we call self-directed learning here in the education world, which I will mention very soon as well. And so, like, the internet is really, a place where this got started, because this was our game development forum in Slovenia. We had a digital art page where we would upload. It's kind of like DeviantArt. It's just the internet just breeds this. Like, there were no school for game development at the time, so we just had to find our own ways to learn. So this is kind of how I got over here. And this is the difference between, like, when you go to school, it kind of goes like this. Like, you have your school-free childhood, and then you go to school for, 15 years, after which in school you were meant to learn everything you needed to do, and then you're going to work for 4 years and hopefully at the end retire and enjoy your, pension and whatever. The other model, what we were doing, like, this would be the traditional. The other thing with it we were doing would be like this. You're constantly learning just because of your interest. Like, you want to do something and you're going to learn how to do it. And, this is kind of called lifelong learning. and that's the way we learn naturally, especially like for things like drawing. Like you can go to art school, but you can also just learn on your own as along as you go. And this will be the topic of my talk, this kind of learning. So this is self-directed learning. And in this way, I've learned everything. Like I've done so much game design. This is throughout like childhood and high school and college. I would learn how to do 2D art. I would learn how to do 3D art for my games. And then I realized at the end of college, I went to computer science for school. I went to computer science. And I learned all the art on the side, and then I realized, oh my God, I made a huge mistake. I should have gone to art school because I love this stuff so much. So I decided, well, I'm just going to make up for everything I missed. So I decided I'm going to draw a portrait a week. And so I learned how to draw with pencils. And then I also, learned even more how to draw with a drawing tablet. And I've never learned traditional art. So right now I'm in school for a master's degree. I'm still taking an art class in traditional, so I'm learning like watercolors and this kind of stuff. And this kind of like breadth of learning, lifelong learning, it goes beyond just coding, making games and art, like to everything. Like I'm 30 years old. Hopefully you can see the video okay. I'm at 30 years old, I started learning gymnastics, and like the peak age for somebody learning is like 20 years old. So it's something that you start as a kid and work all your way throughout. And there's no limits. Like, and there's all this other stuff, from music, other sports that I've been doing, I've been teaching, like all of this, like I am just all about like learning and never stopping to learn. I find this as an amazing thing, everything we can do in our lifetimes. And so I kind of ended up in this, my main focus is still this intersection of games and art and self-directed learning, which is just going after everything you want. And so combination of these two things has brought me into what I'm doing right now, which is teaching pixel art. And if in case somebody does not know about pixel art, but I think you all do. I was working, so it's graphics for games. It started out as the only way to do graphics. Now it's more like an aesthetic, and you can use it for other stuff. This is like a magazine cover that I did. You can do it like you find it in music videos today. There's a artist in Spain, Maya Pixel Sky, that paint on ties and shoes and stuff like that. Still, many people just use it to put on video games. So this is when I was studying as a game development class. This is a game that one of my students made, and then I asked a buddy of mine, Bloody Avenger, to make pixel art graphics for him, and this is how it looks like after. So if this is already a functional game, but it has programmer art, if you can put this in the App Store, but it's not going to have that good of a chance unless it's like a geometrically styled themed game. But then you put something like this is why people want to, at least the people that want to play my video game, that's why they want to learn how to do art, because they want to go from here to here. And hopefully some of you that are listening to this talk are also kind of in that, either from one side, like you know how to code and you want to learn how to draw, or you know how to draw and then you have all these ideas about games that you want to realize. And then it's fun if you also know how to code and make them happen. So I kind of see all this lifelong learning I'm talking about. It's kind of for two main things. One is you wanna do it if you want to enjoy yourself. So for example, this is like an image that I would do like this would take me 200 hours. So if I don't enjoy doing this, like there's no way I would be able to do it. So like just the drawing itself is this kind of therapeutical exercise, especially when it comes down to coloring, when I have everything locked in and I'm just like putting in pixel after pixel. It's a pretty good experience. And then the second thing is it doesn't have to be just relaxation or just like enjoyment. It's also to reach some end goal. And for many of this is like realizing that your dream of making a video game, and just like it is for myself right now that I'm making Pixel Art Academy. So out of this, like just as a good citizen of, having all this information, all this learning materials on the internet, I wanted to be a good citizen and give something back as well. So I made this tutorial how to use the drawing tool GIMP to make pixel art. And I was like something that somebody asked me, and instead of just writing back an email, I said, oh, I'm just going to record a video because I felt it was easier to explain. So I recorded this video in like 4 or 5 hours on one New Year's Eve or something like that. And then it just kind of over years exploded. Now it has over 100,000 views, which I think is an explosion, when you consider, or at least how I considered pixel art was a niche thing. But and this inspired me to then, I wanted to do a successor to this tutorial, and that's how I came to where I am right now, which is Stanford University. I applied to a master's program, so I'm just about in 2 weeks, I'm gonna give a similar presentation to this about Pixel Art Academy, and where it shows just like I've been studying for 1 year, just learning theories, because it's a master's degree in education. So just how learning works, and because I knew I had a lot of game development experience, I know how to do art by now, but I did want to get a solid foundation in just all the learning theory stuff. And this is what I kind of want to share with you today. Everything I've kind of learned from the theory side, and also from like practical side that I found in my life of just learning pretty much everything. And so I came to Stanford thinking about, I want to teach people how to do pixel art, and then I created like a prototype learning module where I would show you, it was kind of typical online course. Like I would show you, these are the fundamentals that you should learn. This is like, you should go search for your inspiration. And I would give you tasks to do, like today, on this day, you should do this and this, and show you how to do it. And then people would create this kind of artworks. And it was pretty cool. I was like, oh my God, like this was a 1 week course. And like, oh my God, this is so good. And then something showed up, which I felt it was a little bit problematic. This was like a study, because I had it in school. It was kind of like a research study, but practice study. So it had about 400 participants that went through this one week program. But every day there would be like a little bit less people. And, at the end, we ended up with a quarter. And this is kind of like if you were in school, if you were a teacher, every day, 1 out of 5 students would just drop out and just don't show up. And the thing is, 25% completion rate is actually a very good, considered a good thing in the world of online learning. Like all these massively online courses that you have nowadays, they have a completion rate average about 10%. So it's like 10 to 30%. It's like the upper limit. And I saw this myself. I was doing another course, which was just like, it just takes 5 minutes a day, like 25 minutes, you can do it. And it did even worse. It was like 7% of people finished. Like it was a difference maybe because it was a free course. And so it just showed up how much people like to sign up, but then don't follow up on it. But this to me, when I see this, it actually hurts, because it's like all these 100%, these 170 people that sign up, they have an actual intention. Like, I do want to learn how to draw. It's like, it's their aspiration, but they don't follow up on it. And it's just, I don't know, it's devastating to me. Like, I want to help. I want to see what we can do to make these people, follow with their aspiration to learn these things. And so I asked the participants, like, what's the problem? And the biggest thing was definitely time. It's just time. It's life gets busy, and this one's my favorite. I started slacking off after day 4 or so. This is due to my proficiency in procrastination. And there were other things, like when things get hard, when it's, a little bit harder things to learn, they lose motivation, or maybe they don't have a plan. They just kind of aimlessly wander around the topic. One big one is also lack of self-discipline. Like they fail to, come up with a schedule and stick with it and just go watch Netflix or something like that. And notice that none of these things are actually about, there's not enough learning materials. So, when I came to Stanford, like here to study, I was like, I'm going to make another course on pixel art. I realized it's not really about making another course. There's enough of material for free already made. There's another problem, and it's that people do not have self-regulated learning skills. So if I said self-directed learning is, choosing what you're going to learn because of your interests. Then self-regulated learning is having the skills to then actually execute that learning, to carry it through. And this is something that you don't really get out of school, because school in itself is a regulated environment. That's almost one of the benefits, is that they take care of coming up with the curriculum for you. They would give you assignments, you would have you have deadlines, teachers would give you feedback and all of this. So when you think about going to art school, and I hope you can see the video again, it's just for background though, it's like when you see this kind of like an art school, like I want to go to an art school. When you see this, you don't think like, oh, do I have to go to school? No, it's like, it's great. It's you have other classmates, they give you friendly competition, you get homework. Like I said, teachers will help you out. Like the studio environment it's stimulating, like you would want to be in that environment. And one of the main things, actually, the benefits of doing this is the time dedication you're going to put to yourself. It's like that's the one main difference between why they improve so much. Is just because you're doing that's your full-time job if you go like into this as a real school. So you're gonna be putting in 8 hours every day, and you're gonna improve really fast, and you're not gonna be stuck in this limbo that you are at the start when you don't really when you're just like when your stuff isn't that good. And Ira Glass actually has a really good quote on this, and I'm just going to kind of read it out to you. He says, "Nobody tells this to people who are beginners. I wish someone told me. All of us who do creative work, we get into it because we have good taste. But there's this gap. For the first couple years you make stuff, it's just not that good. It's trying to be good. It has potential, but it's not. But your taste, the thing that got you into this game, is still killer. And that's why your work disappoints you. And a lot of people don't get past this phase, and they quit." And so, and then he goes on to talk about like, we all went through this, and the only thing you can do for this is just do a lot of work. You gotta push yourself on a deadline, just finish a work every week, just go through it and like follow with your ambitions. And everyone went through this, and it takes a while. It's a pretty big gap. And so that's why if you go to school, you cross this and they just push you through it. Whereas if you're on your own, like I've seen so many when I was part of these communities, I see so many people just like give up and quit. And so I realized, I'm not really here to teach pixel art. It's what I am is I need to design a learning environment that's specifically set up for self-directed, self-regulated learning. Like I can't just create another art school and put it in a video game. It can't be the same as if I went, made a normal curriculum. And I think this is why a lot of these online courses are kind of failing. Like you would sign up for them, but you don't follow them because they're designed just as all other curriculums. And so that's why I wanted to, this is how, and in 2 weeks as I'm going to graduate, I'm going to give this talk about how I used all of this to make Pixel Art Academy, and you're super welcome to I'm probably going to post it online. You're welcome to see that. But so from here on, I want to show you how you can also design your own basically learning environment for yourself using these same kind of principles. So yeah, how to learn on your own as opposed to how to go to a school. And still, if you have the chance to go, to a school, please do. Like it's one of the best things you can do. Like even when I was learning gymnastics, I went to a club and I got coaches that would, show me stuff. It'd be immensely harder if I just wanted to teach myself everything, but it's not always an option. Like especially like first of all, you might not have the money, or you don't want to go full-time or part-time, you have family and stuff like that. Sometimes the school just doesn't exist. When I was a kid, just like game development just wasn't a thing. Game development was something my parents expected me to grow out of. Like video games, that's for kids. Anyway, I digress. So that's why, this is if you want to go do it yourself way, and just learn. Like you're still going to learn from others. That's how you learn materials. It's not like you're going to discover everything on your own. Anyway, the thing is, I'm focusing on coding and drawing, because this is what I know, and I think it's useful to a lot of you. But the thing is, both of these things, this is hard. Like drawing is gonna like it's gonna make you feel inadequate a lot of times. Yeah, you're gonna want to quit. That you might even think like, oh, I'm just not an art person. This is something a lot of people do. This is also something that I really wanna eradicate out of the world. Like the way a lot of people raise us is, oh, you're just not a math person. Look at how good you're doing in something else, or the other way. Oh, your art is so great. It doesn't matter if you're not good at math or something like that. Like they make you feel like that there's this innate talents that you are born with, and they're stopping you. But and that's problem number one. Problem number two is also that even if you believe you can learn everything, it's the gap is so huge. So you still need to have the motivation and everything to pass. And so I'm going to address these two problems. So the first problem is the fixed mindset, the opposite of which is the growth mindset. And this comes out of research. And so they had the teachers actually, like that's why it happens, because teachers in schools, or just maybe just parents in general, think that if you're going to praise a student for intelligence, they will become confident and motivated to learn, like, oh, you're so smart, you should be good at school, and then the second one is that the intelligence, have your inherent intelligence, is the major like influence of how well you will do at school. And the researchers show that the first one is false, and that the second belief is harmful. Even for the most competent students, giving them that advice is actually going to hurt their performance. And this second belief that you are born with some sort of intelligence and it's just there, that's called the fixed mindset. And you're going to know this because a lot of RPGs are worked like that, like all the Dungeons and Dragons video games. Like this is from Baldur's Gate. Like you start up, you create your character, you put it at certain intelligence, and that's it. Unless you find some cape that gives you +1 or some shit like that. And so these attributes are just taken as this innate, whereas the skills that you're actually doing, those, you increase through time, but not the attributes. And the research in psychology and neuroscience like supports the opposite. They support that, yeah, you can increase your intellectual ability. And so think about it this way. Yeah, it's not, I like intellectual ability way more because, it gives you, at least it gives you the wording, gives you, ability, you think something that you can, increase. And so the opposite of this is games like the Elder Scrolls series. Like I had this gut feeling that it was just better for all this time. I'm a huge fan. And now that I got to school here, I have, oh my God, I see what's going on, because like Elder Scrolls is the embodiment of the opposite of the growth mindset. You start with some sort of these stats, but then as you improve your skills, then you level up because you're improving your skills. And depending on what kind of skills, like if you're fighting a lot, it gives you a bonus to your strength. And so you can choose 3 of these that you want to raise, and they're going to grow, and they're going to grow more depending on what skills you were using. So definitely you can max out your intelligence. I think this is from Oblivion. And even look at that, they even include messages at the top. The results of hard work and dedication always look like luck, but you've earned every ounce of your success. Like it's, I don't know, I saw this now that I know about growth mindset, and I was just like, oh my God. So anyway, and and when you look at sports, nobody thinks about when you say strength and speed, you're born with 7 and you can't improve it. No, of course not. You go to the gym, you're going to be stronger. You go to the track and field, you're going to be faster and faster. And this is far from saying that, that there's nothing stuff like, genetics. But it's just the genetics explain how well you responding to training. Like you can put 2 of the same people through the same training and they're not going to come out the same because they might respond differently. But it doesn't mean that you can't get faster and you can't get stronger. And it's just the same way you can learn anything. If it's coding, if it's art, everyone can learn drawing. If everyone can learn how to draw, to ride a bike and drive a car, just as much as everyone can learn how to draw. And this kind of mindset is, is very useful. Like think about like babies are born, you're born dumb. You don't know anything. You can't do anything. You're not, you're you're born uncreative, unimaginative, you're unmusical, unartistic. You don't have anything. It's like in Fallout, you're like you have to gain all of your abilities, and that's just to me. It's such a difference if you have this kind of a mindset, and a lot of people just at this point would rebuke, but like not everyone can be the best, not everyone can be at the top. Like, don't confuse this is not naive belief. Like, you don't necessarily believe that anyone will become Einstein or Mozart, but you do understand that even Mozart and Einstein had to put a lot of years into practice to become where they are, and you don't really need to be the best to be successful and enjoy what you're doing. And the students that believe that you put on effort, they just that you can develop intelligence, they go ahead and just do that. So yeah, that's very important. Second thing I want to talk about is deliberate practice, which also comes out of a paper called The Role of Deliberate Practice in Acquisition of Expert Performance. This is for everyone that wants to really go be their best at it. And so the way I see it is like this. There's 4 types of activities that as an artist or as a coder or whatever you're going to do. And one is you observe others. You're part of the community. It's where you get your interests. You see what's been going on. And the next one is learning, where you're actually getting in new material, new theory, things you didn't know about. And there's one I call it play. You could call it practice, but it's when you go play with some ideas and you put them into practice, in that sense, you're trying them out on your own, but it's not really, it doesn't have a final output. The create part is the one where now I'm creating this game for this specific reason, or this artwork that's going to be a cover of a magazine. Because when you're, or create is just work, like, when you're at work, you're mainly just using your skills that you have to produce something. Whereas in play, you're trying to, you can go wherever you want. It's like you're not bound by some sort of performance that you need to do. And so there's a couple of examples of how people fail at learning, or fail to be, for example, fail to be an artist is if you're a wannabe, you would just be like observing everyone. Like, these are people that have bought so many books, they have folders organized on their disk with all the references, but they just don't put it into practice. They don't explore those ideas. They don't create artworks, and they're just very loud usually on the internet without much to show. Then the next one is mindless play. This would be if you just play around but don't actually put in the theory of, like, you can just like, it doesn't lead to a lot of things. Like, you can be just practicing or playing around with the same old things. Like, sure, okay, it's going to be fun for you, but it's not going to bring you, it's not going to bring you to improvement. Then there's one is when you're plateauing. Like, I've seen artists that are like, that said, I have 10 years of experience, and they consider them as masters or something like that. But when you look at their work, it's not really at the level that you would expect, I guess, for somebody with 10 years of experience. And I think it's a lot because they just get stuck at one level that they like, and they just keep doing that over and over, like the same kind of artworks. And that's fine if the level where you're at is, you're happy with that level, then please go ahead, right? But other than that, you would want to diversify and just try other things as well, and get new knowledge in and put it into practice. And so the concept of deliberate practice is that it's very kind of focused. Like, you pick something that you want to do, and you go and you put it into, you play around with it, you explore it, or something that that you didn't do really well, and just focus on it, try different ideas, variations on it. And, if you want to be a balanced learner, then you will want to do all of it together every day. Ideally, I guess, if you're professional, then definitely. Otherwise, as much as possible. Next thing I want to talk about is like, when you're exploring this, like, especially like going in for expert performance, you're trying to like really go deep on just one little small place. But we have this kind of like high road and low road transfer. So, and I'm mentioning this just so that I could put a SimCity 4 screenshot in there. But like high road transfer would be just kind of like the bad RPGs do it. You gain experience by killing boars, and then for that you are awarded by increasing your lockpicking skills. There's just like that only happens, like that kind of transfer from one to another just happens if you really reflect on the experience and try to extract like some kind of general principles out. Mainly, more often, it just happens low road transfer, which is kind of the same similar skills. Like if you're going to learn how to draw a car, it's going to help you drive oh my god, drive a car, not draw a car. I draw too much. If you're going to know how to drive a car, it's going to help you, I don't know, drive a truck or something like that. And it's when you know something that well. And, you see that in sports a lot. Like people would train, like running is good for any kind of sports you're doing because it's increasing your maximum oxygen intake. And like, for example, and in football, like the American football, the kickers actually come out of soccer because they're so good, And so if you're good at soccer, you're going to be good at that thing in football, even though it's not the same ball and, rules and all that kind of crap. And I've done this so much. Like I've already said how much different things I do, and I've tried all these different kinds of art, and it informs each other so well. Like if you're going to be doing pixel art and you've done an artwork, it's going to improve your composition, and it's going to help in your digital art. When you're going to go draw a naked lady or a guy, it's going to improve your anatomy skills, and it's going to improve even that little pixel art character that you make. It's going to look better. And you go all the way back to Da Vinci, It's these people that have like studied everything and become amazing because of it. And even it goes even beyond this. Like you can all the movies that you see, and even just like all the world that you explore. Like be an open person, right? Like the relationships you have. Don't be close-minded. Like as rich intellectually and emotionally you are, the better. So now that when you're trying to be this kind of inspired with everything, and this is definitely true for me, is like I just want to learn everything. You still need to know what you want to focus on. Like I think a good analogy is like ice cream sampler. If you went into it's kind of, because it's paralyzing if you now just pick one and focus on it. It's paralyzing to a person that wants to learn a lot of things. So it's something that's called an ice cream sampler. Would be you go into an ice cream store and you don't have to pick just one, but they would give you like a sampler of 5 that you can choose, 3, 4, 5, and so you choose those. And they also let you know the next time you come into the store, you can choose the other 5. And this is how I like to think about, like, I don't have that many things going on at the same time. I do like 3, 4, 5, I'm going to be drawing, I'm going to be studying education, I'm going to do my gymnastics thing, and maybe a couple more very rare ones. So, just pick stuff, pick up a couple of things that you're doing and create these kind of mini projects about it. This is kind of like homework that they would give you, if you went to art school, they would give you these little small projects where you're going to be focusing on one of these. And a very good thing in like, especially for game developers out there, is join these kind of things. Like experimental gameplay project was one where like 2D Boy came out of, and you can see that the art style, I think, is from their artist. Clooney Games was the guy who did Crayon Physics Deluxe. He was doing like this, and experimental gameplay project is you pick one team and work on it for a week alone. And the point is like you just pick something like Gravity, or I think the Crayon Deluxe was something like, drawing, and he would make a game, and he would make a game every week, and then, or at least for 1 week every month. So he would have 12 games at the very end of the year. And one of them like just proved out so much fun. So he made the Crayon Physics Deluxe. Like the deluxe version was a bigger version. It was like #1 in AGF 1 year, like got the main award and everything like that. So it's very good to, focus on something like that. And these kind of formats give you the opportunity to do that. Another one is, of course, Ludum Dare. It's great because it gives you deadlines. It's not just, you just... when you put yourself to a deadline or something like that, it's just that you put external forces on yourself. You actually follow through, and so this is very good. And for artists, for example, Pixel Dailies, and you every day you get a team, and there's a lot of people that you always have something to pick out. And there's others for digital art. You have speed painting and stuff like that. And one more thing I would say here is also like just follow your passions, follow your interests. Like I have this weird obsession with this car, Turbo Esprit from Lotus. It's because there was this Lotus Turbo Esprit video game and Lotus Ultimate Challenge, and I just love this car. I'm obsessed with it, and and that's why I'm just gonna I'm gonna spend time drawing it, and it's enjoyable. So when you're picking your teams, like all these jams and stuff have like teams predetermined, so also do stuff where you pick your own thing, and it's just like just go and do your thing about it. It's going to be great. One other thing that's a really fun community that I found, especially for coding and for pixel art, it just combines everything, and it's kind of like when I was saying that we learned out of magazines, we would just type in. It has very that kind of a vibe. So it's this Pico 8, which is kind of imaginary console, and it has all the tools to code, to draw pixels in it, and it's just this amazing community. And they would have jams. And last time they had a tweet jam when somebody just imagined, hey, what program can you make in just 140 characters? And you would just watch that, and it's so amazing. And you can take part in that kind of things, and it's just gonna really increase your creativity. You're going to be inspired by it. So that's all definitely helpful when you're going to be, looking for ways how to improve yourself and keep in the game. I want to shortly explain, I think we're going to 45 minutes. I might come back to this. I think I'm going to skip through this one just because I think I can come back to it. So I'm just going to skip through. I think I have other stuff that I can talk about better. Yeah. For example, regular schedule. Like the thing is, you will wanna, like, that's how I said, like, you go to art school if you can. That's gonna be the time where you're gonna be just, you're gonna put so many hours in. Like that's the only thing that makes you improve. Like effort, it comes out of time. You need to put in your hours. So try and find ways, like when you choose your ice cream samplers, things that you want to focus on, like treat them like they're like part of your job. It's part of your life. It's your passion. Like protect them as that. Like you need to have that in your life. And so schedule them into your calendar, whatever you want to do. Like there was this project called Give It 100 that I really loved. And, you would decide, it's these moments when you're inspired and like, okay, I'm going to dedicate 100 days. I'm going to practice every day, at least for 5 minutes or something like that. At least just do something, like do 1 minute. I don't know, draw 3 lines. But then other times you're going to be drawing for one hour. And like We Fit, this is the screenshot from We Fit, had this, like where you would check in every day and do your body test, and at minimum you would just go in and do your body test, do your weighting, and but then on others, then let's also go into training. So there's stuff that uses this very well. And because Give It 100 was dismantled, like the website, Pixel Art Academy for me is like a lot bringing that back for artists. Another one is like Tiny Habits, which is you find something that you already do in your almost everyday routine, and then you tackle on something else. So you pick an existing behavior that you have, existing habit, and then you add just something small next to it. And so this is a screenshot from a course, like the course that I showed you, the Sketch 5, the one that did even worse. But it's actually the ones like this, I was able to use this very well. So I'm still need to figure out the design, how to teach it to others. But you can look it up. It's called Sketch 5, and I can put a link afterwards. It follows this. And the way it works is you pick a location that you pass every day. And then all you need to do is sit down in the grass and have your pencils with you. But as soon as you do that for 30 seconds, you can just go if you're busy. But just, get that habit going. And that helps a lot. Like I've been amazed at what kind of things I was able to do with this. And so this one's last one. We're almost at 45 minutes. Or actually, I guess we started 5 minutes late. But I'm going to have a Q&A, I guess. And you can let me know if some of this interests you more. So the last thing I want to say, everyone, is go public with whatever you're doing. Like, and maybe this is an advice only for extroverts, because I am like that. I thrive on this, and I know many people don't, and just don't don't like to do it. And if you want to do something that's good for your games or for your art, if you just do it for your own enjoyment, that's fine. So you don't need to listen to this. Well, it has benefits even if you don't. But for everyone that is like that's trying to succeed professionally in some way, so get noticed by your art, or make a living out of your video games, like this is so important. I can't stress enough. It's like, make a blog, make something about it. Like Wolfire is such a good example. They made these videos that they broke down like other games designs that got pretty popular. Then they would have their blog. They would always post what's new in the alpha. And they're the guys that also then at one point made the humble bundle. I think it was meant to be just a one-time thing, because they were just, oh, this would be cool to, I don't know, try and help our friends sell games. And then indie humble bundle is just like one of the biggest things, because it just exploded, and one of the guys that came up with it just went on and they created their own company just doing that. So yeah, and it's give back to the communities with what you're doing. Be part, like if you're doing coding, be on Screenshot Saturday, see what others are doing, be part of the community, because it's gonna keep you in the loop. You're gonna keep on wanting to do this, and you're gonna be noticed, and other people are gonna support you. That's why Give It 100 was also so great, because you would see what everyone else decided to do. And even if it was just a woman that decided, oh, I'm gonna lose weight, go to gym, it doesn't matter for me. Like, I loved everyone that had all these different, like, hula hooping, and it's and you're there to support them, and they will support you back, and it's such an amazing feeling. It's it was such a good community of practice. And yeah, and also like try and give back. Like, I do tutorials of what I do know. I'm giving this talk to you guys right now. Like, this is one of the tutorials I gave. It was pretty popular on Tumblr. One last thing I want to close. Yeah, just like, it's the same thing. You're gonna get your exposure up, which is good if you're doing this for a living, because that's just marketing in these days. And if you're not, it's like I said, it's being part of a community is really a healthy thing. And this is how you keep this community. If you give back to the community, this is how you keep it alive. That's how self-directed learning works, because others have given out. At least that's how internet works, because others have made this material available to you. Yes, the last thing I want to say on this topic is you will inevitably face some criticism when you go public. So it has this small little not as nice thing. And when that happens to you, just remember, when people are being nasty to you, and like saying, oh, I don't like this, you didn't do this well. It's every negative comment is mainly 90% about the person that's saying it. It tells something about them. They must be frustrated in some way, and there's just so little. There's so much noise in there. There's like maybe 10% is actually something that you can pull out of, like, oh, maybe my colors were really off. And that's why I'm saying this is when people will give you unsolicited advice. Like, it's very good to ask people for advice when you need it. Like, when I was plateauing, I went to get an art, like somebody that I can ask about art, and that's when I was asking for feedback, and that's when you receive it very differently when it is unsolicited. But when you go public, it's an inevitable part, and this helped me to get through a lot of shit that people have given me. But then I hope like my art speaks for itself, and I don't really need to listen to them. And anyway, so that's my talk. This is a quote that kind of sums everything along very nicely from my favorite guy here. I have been impressed with the urgency of doing. Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Being willing is not enough, we must do. And this is just it. How people say that ideas are cheap. It's like everyone has them. Like, I also say aspirations are cheap. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can tell me, oh, I wish I could draw like that, when people see your artworks. Like, yeah. Like, you guys can wish whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Like, aspirations are cheap. You can wish whatever you want it only matters, just like ideas, it matters who executes them. it's the same for aspirations. It matters who actually acts on those aspirations and gets something done with them. So anyway, thank you so much. I think that was just about 45 minutes, I guess, since we were running late. But yeah, that's me. That's my talk.
Hey, Matej. So
I
thank
can
you.
take Q&A.
Thank you so much, actually, for that.
I hope you heard everything. I hope I didn't drop out halfway.
No, it looked
you're
great.
Good.
I was actually I was downstairs watching it with Jessie on the big TV because this is one that I really wanted her to see, and she really liked it. So
thank you so much.
As far as the Q&A, obviously we're running short on time, so the Q&A can happen in the chat. I did see a few questions through the chat that you might want to through.
That I did not see because I
feel free to
repeat.
Yeah, feel free to repeat your questions in the chat because I saw a few now that Matej's able to see the chat, and he can answer them in there. In the meantime, I am going to kick you out, Matej, but thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. It was great. It was great seeing you again.
Hope you found it useful. Thank you. Cheers.
All right, we're going to go back to this overlay. Why am I... Oh, I have my camera off. There we go. That'll work. So, thank you again, Matej. And we're going to get set up. We're running a little bit behind, so we're going to try and make up for that. But enjoy the music while you talk to Matej.